Hey, everybody, welcome to the Life of an Average Joe podcast. Look, there's a little bit of a lighting issue here as I'm still working out the kinks of this studio. Whoa, what is that? Look at that. Kind of like this. Yeah. So, anyway, there's this section right here. I need I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. Anyway, we're going to let it go because I don't care, and that's just the way it is. So, Life of an Average Joe podcast. What's up, everybody? I'm having some issues on the lighting. Go Pistons. Hey, we're not out yet. It's 2-2 right now, or yes, tied the series. We were up 2-0. No, it's 2-1. What am I talking about? We're up 2-1 against Cleveland. Shout out to Tups for Easy Juice, one of the best beers out there. And I'm drinking it because not only have I spilled half of it on my computer, true story. It's awesome. It's only 3.2% alcohol. This awesome beer. And this is a shameless plug. Brandon, I thought you didn't drink beer right now. Well, today I do. And that's the way it is. Why, you ask? Not just because the Pistons lost their first game in Cleveland, but because I'm still getting adapted to the new studio, and I've got a lot going on the podcast. I'm loving this. This goes around. I may move it. I think that's the issue. Is if I move the light further out, it'll fix that. But hey, we're gonna figure it out together. Oh, by the way, it's my Cade Cunningham jersey, not just a Detroit Pistons jersey. It's Cade. So there you go. But I'm also recording this podcast and I have a lot to say. And I want to dive in to the greatest superstar of all time, greatest pop star of all time. And that is something that is a hard thing to say when you look at the entertainment world and you see some of the big names out there. You look at the names that, I'm not just talking modern day, I'm talking throughout history. So whether you agree with them or not, you think about these household names. You think about these bands, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Elton John. And those are all big names, right? We know what they've done. People know who they are. You look at artists, Garth Brooks, Elvis Presley, the Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra. And you look at other artists, Aretha Franklin, and you start thinking about them, and then you say Michael Jackson. And inevitably, you will not find somebody in the world who doesn't know who Michael Jackson is. I'm not saying that you can't find somebody, but I'm saying that is a name that has crossed over globes of fans that has gone on for generations and decades. Whatever they may know about him. Maybe they were there from the start. Maybe they were there at the end. But they know that name. And Michael Jackson is at that table. He is probably the head of that table. Greatest entertainers, greatest pop star of all time, greatest people of all time in the music industry. He is there. Some guy's got a loud muffler because he thinks he's on Fast and the Furious. And yes, sitting at that table is Prince. Okay, sitting at that table is Frank Sinatra, because prospectively, and you look at them during their times, that's what they are. But it's for different reasons. It's hot in here, by the way. But Michael Jackson is something that I don't think people truly understand how big he is until you start diving into the money, to the legacy, to what he did for musicians, to the catalog of music, not just what he did outside of music as far as what he bought and his lavish lifestyle. You just start looking at the catalog. I don't think people realize that. I don't think they realize that to this day, Thriller is the greatest. It's the most selling album of all time worldwide. And it was released in 1982 with over 7 million copies sold. And it's held that position since then. And even as of 2026, Thriller has streaming power. Thriller has growing power. Thriller is still selling records. Nobody has topped Thriller. Nobody. That was 1982, guys. We are 2026. And nobody's come close. And we can argue, well, music is different these days. You know, the way that albums are produced, the way that albums are sold, it's different these days. It doesn't matter. Nobody's come close. It was 30 times platinum, triple diamond. And it's certified 34 times platinum by the RIAA. 10 singles on the Billboard Top 100, 8 Grammy Awards. One album, guys. One album. Not to mention what it did for music videos. Now let's go back, because the reason I'm talking about this is because Michael's out. The movie's out. And it's been out for several weeks. And I will say this, I'm always hesitant about biopics. I've talked about this on some of my movie reviews. I've talked about this with friends, because the idea of a biopic where you take like a person, a band, a musician, an artist, a political figure, and it's usually surrounded by an event or something that happened that they want to talk about, that they want to do. And you want to give as much accuracy to them as possible. And you want to show the world maybe a story that people are familiar with, or that people think, hey, this would make a really good story. I love that idea. But all too often, biopics turn into just an impression. Example. The Tupac All Eyes on Me biopic, probably one of the most Timu versions I've ever seen. They found somebody that looked like Pac and that sounded like Pac, who never acted a day in his life, and not to say you can't come into your first role that way, and wrote a really crappy script, really made a Hallmark movie version of Tupac's life and death. Just horrible. And it turned into an impression. And again, if you saw this guy doing an impression of Pac, you'd say, okay, that's great, but it's not good for the movie, and it gave nothing to the film. Now, the Notorious B.I.G. movie was better because they at least dove into his childhood and at least touched on the music and his life and his mom. It wasn't great. 50 Cent film, phenomenal. 8 Mile, phenomenal. But 8 Mile is still, yes, it's a movie based off Eminem's life. And there are real characters in there. There are real moments in there. But it's still a movie. It's not a true biopic. The Amy Winehouse film, although she looked good and sounded good, the movie was trash. Whitney Houston, the Whitney Houston film. Okay? I Want to Dance with Somebody. I think that's what it was called. I think so. Had its moments. Horrible film. Horrible. Period. There are very few biopics that work. They have this formula of, hey, here's the story, especially with musicians. Hey, here's the story. The band came together. This was the moment. Here's the moment for the next song. Story hit. Next song, story hit. Tragedy done. Whatever. Now, the NWA, Straight Outta Compton, thought it was great. Thought it was great because it showed the dark side. It showed the feud. It showed, Eazy-E contracting HIV and what happened then. It showed the battle with the record labels. It showed the police. It showed the impact on what they had with the federal government. That was great. But biopics are 50-50, and I'm always into them because I'm intrigued. And I'm usually kind of let down, or it's just a big fan service. Michael, although it's not perfect, has some of the best moments of any biopic. And I say that. It's made almost $600 million plus. It's on its way to $1 billion. Will it hit it? I don't know. It depends how long it's in theaters. It's on week 3 and it's over $600 million. It's made its money back. It's considered profitable. Has some of the best music ever, obviously. Some of the best choreography ever. Has some of the best casting. The casting, to me, was 10 out of 10. And if you haven't seen it, don't worry, guys. I'm not going to sit here and break down the movie for you. I did a short review on TikTok. but I'm not going to sit here and break down the movie. I'm just talking about things. So when you look at the casting and you look at this time in Michael's life, Jafar Jackson, oh my God. There were moments as I watched Jafar on stage. Again, first acting gig. He's the nephew of Michael Jackson. And I said to myself, I'm looking at Michael Jackson. I got chills. I got absolute chills. Sorry, guys, I moved my camera there. Absolute freaking chills from what happened in this film with Jafar. I was blown away at what he did, from the facial expressions, from the dance, to the way he talked. Unbelievable. Excuse me. Coleman Domingo, 10 out of 10 playing Joseph Jackson, his father. I felt it. Seeing interviews with Joseph Jackson, knowing the history of Michael's dad, I felt it. Giuliano Valdi played, and yes, I got my computer in front of me because I'm forgetting names. Giuliano Valdi played a young Michael. Oh my God. Started following this kid on TikTok. I don't know if it's right or not, but he's so good. I hope we see him in more roles. I could go on and on. I didn't know that Mike Myers was in Michael. I don't know. But you got some great actors. And I could keep going. There's some amazing cameos. There's some amazing people in there. Lawrence Tate's in there. Derek Luke. I could just keep going on of some phenomenal, phenomenal actors in this movie. So you have the cast and you have this great, I gotta adjust this camera. This camera's pissing me off, dude. You have this great, and I mean great setup for a story. And they did a good job diving into the family and showing Michael. Now, I wish they would have dove in to the creative process more, because watching Michael play A Beautiful Mind with his songs and his dance and the beats and teaming up with him and Quincy, I wish they would have talked about that more. I'm impressed with that. And I love that. And I love the fact that they did kind of go down that road. I love the fact that they addressed that MTV was not going to play Michael's music because he was black. And that CBS and the head of CBS at the time called NBC and said, look, if you don't sit here and put Beat It on, you'll never get any videos from any of my artists again. And that's what happened. Could you imagine Michael having all this fame when that album came out and they weren't playing Beat It at all? Unbelievable. No, this movie did not talk about the controversy that happened later in life. It cut off. They are making a number 2. So I'm going to be very curious. We're going to get into that Dangerous era. We're going to get into the history. There's a lot of other things that can happen in stage 2. And movie 2, when that comes out. But they had a specific moment. They didn't shy away from some of the controversy. Not that controversy, but, they talked about the Pepsi incident, but they didn't really dive into how much that affected Michael. They made a deal about it, but they don't dive into exactly how that affected him. They talked about, his nose jobs, because he had an issue. He had a self-awareness about him where he was insecure because of his dad, who made fun of him for his nose and his acne and the way he looked and beat him up and kept on, telling him, hey, you got a big nose, you got a big nose. And Michael felt that. So he had the money to do something about that. It's no different than celebrities now. So they addressed that. Overall, got a crack there. Overall, I love the movie. I absolutely loved the film. I'll buy it when it comes out on Blu-ray for sure. I should pre-order it now because I know they're gonna have an awesome special 4K edition that behind the scenes. Because honestly, I'd watch the making of it just to watch Jafar and the rest of the crew. I definitely could do that. Yes, there was fan service, but I don't know. At a movie, I'd say it's like an 8.5 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. As a cast, it's a 10 out of 10. And I'm nitpicking, so I highly recommend you see it because it's worth it. But when you look at Michael beyond that movie, you have to remember Michael was in the limelight since he was 8 years old. Even before that, his whole family was. Michael didn't have a childhood, and we can talk about other artists that didn't, but what separates him and Prince, and I love Prince, is why I put Michael ahead of Prince, and that's no disrespect. Excuse me. To Prince, because I absolutely love Prince. And I'm not saying that Prince didn't start off young, but he was not a member. He was not in a band at 8 years old. He was not becoming almost, and I'm going to say this loosely, a sex symbol at 8 years old. You have to remember, there were girls that were crushing on him at 8. It's very weird. It's a very weird place. And his dad pushed him, abused him, beat him to be perfect. While other kids were outside, he was rehearsing. He was going to school, rehearsing, sleeping, getting up. Then they went on tour. Then he went back to school. He never had those friends. He connected with his pets and his brothers and the fans. That takes a tremendous toll on you. And I'm not saying it didn't take toll on the rest of the family, but Michael was the youngest. It's going to affect him differently. So as you sit here and you grow up in that industry, you surround yourself with all these people that are looking out for you, right? They're going to look out for you. They're going to take care of you. And some of those people do and some of those people don't. But again, he doesn't have friends. Why do you think he leaned so hard towards being a kid? Because he never had a childhood. Because he never had kid friends. But he had a big heart. He took care of animals and treated them like family because they were his family. They talk about that in the movie. And anybody that knows Michael knows that. By the way, the chimpanzee is the worst part of the whole movie. I'm going to leave it at that. We could have got a real chimp, guys. I'm just saying. You're telling me you couldn't get a real chimp for the 5 scenes of this horrible, but I digress. When you think about Michael, for me, growing up, there's Fast and the Furious again. Too Fat and the Furious. I had Michael's cassette tapes. I go back to the days of Harmony House. Now, Harmony House, if for all my peeps back in Michigan, Harmony House was the place to be. You got your vinyl there, you got your music there, you got your swag, and they had Ticketmaster, a little crappy booth in the back of the building. And this was back when you would wait in line. You would sleep outside, wait in line, and get tickets before they did the stupid lottery, before online sales. I loved Harmony House. Major artists would still go to Harmony House to do signings of their records and CDs, and there goes a fuzz. And look at all that fuzz there. You never know what's floating in the air. This light sure, is it from that? Haha. Points it out. But we breathe that crap. But you could go. I met Garbage there. I met so many other bands there. But I remember I loved Harmony House. It was this cool vibe. It's like all those movies about record stores, Empire Records, Paradise Records, High Fidelity. You have a vibe. It's a place to go and put the headphones on and go into the booths and listen to records. Well, cassette tapes were huge before CDs. And I remember Michael always had his record display and his cassette tapes right up front. Mind you, there were genres and top selling, but up front there was always Michael Jackson. And I'll never forget buying the Bad album. And it was this cassette tape, but it came in this big box. It was this wasted cardboard with the cassette tape. On the back, it had like tracks. There was nothing ever really inside this wasted box for the most part. It was just the cassette tape. Every now and then you'd have like a little poster or some larger liner notes or something. But that was it. And I remember going to Harmony House and always seeing Michael Jackson. And I remember, oh, I just burped. God, that was gross. I remember thinking to myself, if you bought that Michael album, whatever one it was, you were it. And I would play it on my boombox. And I had a really cool boombox. It had the double decks and it had detachable speakers. They sell these little tiny wires. You would slide them up. You could put one speaker over here and one speaker over here. Couldn't detach the wires, so they only had so far, but it was cool. And it had the radio, and then later in life, it had the CD player on top. But at the time, it was double decks. And you'd cue up, Thriller, boom. And then you'd put in Bad, boom. And you'd hit pause, either pause and play or pause and record. I think it was pause and play at the same time. And so when that first side of Thriller ended, chunk, it would switch to deck 2 and play Bad. And then you could flip it over for the second side of Thriller and do that reverse process. So it was just Michael Jackson playing on my boombox speakers. I'll never forget that. And I always think of Thriller because at the time, my parents, when the video finally was airing on MTV, mind you, this was a 14.5-minute video because Michael didn't make videos. He made stories. He made theatrical stories. And Thriller with Vincent Price is a theatrical story. So much so that they had a VHS tape that you could buy was the making of Thriller because everybody wanted it. Everybody wanted to be part of Thriller. So you bought the VHS tape or you rented it from Blockbuster, RIP. And yeah, it was great. But I remember my parents, they were freaking weird, man. They were like, hey, we don't want you watching Thriller. You can listen to it, but you don't want to watch it. Or you're not allowed to watch it. It's too scary. Like, do you know what I'm watching? Okay. And I was like, okay. And back then, we would go on field trips. We would go on birthday parties. There'd be school events. And most of the time, they were either at somebody's house or a roller skating rink. And the roller skating rinks were big. They were big, man, back then. And this was a party, and I don't remember whose party it was, but I had to be in like 2nd or 3rd grade. I don't think I was in 4th. I could have been, but I don't think so. 82. I can't do math, guys. But I know what school I was going to. And I was at the roller skating rink, and they were playing music and Bon Jovi and, living on a prayer. And then, Tiffany, I think we're alone now. Doesn't seem to be anyone. That song jams. It slaps so hard. And then they would have a screen, and sometimes that screen would be playing like trippy, like laser stuff, or it would be like, now it's time to grab a partner and go around the rink. And if you don't have one, get off. They embarrass you. Hey, you had to have somebody's hand. You could hold anybody's hand to go around for couple skating. But if you didn't have one, they would have these dudes come by, get off the floor till the song's over. Man, you want to talk about embarrassing if you don't got anybody. Like, bro, I'm 9. My game is shorter than I am, But then the videos would play like premiere videos. If they were really cool videos, they would play the whole video. And they'd get out of here. Don't knock my thing over again. And they would play videos. Well, I remember Thriller started. Bang, 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 bang. But you could hear it like the howling. And I'm like, oh, it's Thriller. Well, my parents weren't there. They were going to leave me there. And I think I was going to my buddy Scott's house or maybe Victor's. I had a really good friend named Scott Kowalski and Victor Hakeem. it's crazy how you remember those guys, from that long ago. But we were the Goonies, we were the Lost Boys, we were Stand By Me, we were all those things. And I remember I was like kind of not watching it, talking to somebody, and then like yeah, one of the girls I was talking to, it could have been Kim or I don't know. There's a girl, I won't say her last name. There's two of them. And they were like, "Oh, I love this video," and I was like, "Yeah, me too." And she wasn't looking. She's like, "You're not even watching." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm watching." And I was just like, "Dan dan 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 dan, bum 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 bum." And she's like, let's skate. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm just skating. This is Thriller, and we had a blast, man. Like, and I was like, yeah, I'm watching Thriller. My mom's not telling me what to do. And, but I remember that. That sticks with me. That whole image sticks with me. And then I was shopping with my grandma and my aunt, and they would stay with us sometimes when my parents were out of town or I'd stay there. And we went to this mall. And I remember this exact moment, but I don't know what mall it was. Could have been Fairlane, but it reminded me of Vegas. There was lights everywhere. There was like this little tunnel that had like lighting, like OG Vegas. I don't know what it was, but, and again, it was a long time ago. So everything in your head from that moment is probably extrapolated. But I remember they were just like it was just awesome. It was like a vibe. We're drinking like a frozen Coke. We're looking at the kiosks and sunglasses, trying these on. And then I go to this kiosk and it's all Michael Jackson merchandise. T-shirts, 8.5 by 11 photos, posters, sunglasses, the red jacket, and they had the glove. I got the glove. And I would wear it. I wore it the whole time. And then I remember getting home and I laid it out on the table. And I had this little photo frame. It was like this generic, like, you slide the photo in, it's like a desk, like plastic. And I had a 8 by 10 or whatever of Michael Jackson doing Beat It. It was from the Beat It video. No, it was from Billie Jean. And the little squares of light are there, and I would lay the glove by it. And I was just like, it's Billie Jean. And in my room, I'm just like, kicking with the wrong foot, like Chris Tucker. And I'll never forget that. I lost the glove years later. I think it got a hole on it or whatever. But that's the memories I had. I mean, there was a Michael Jackson doll. And like when The Wiz came out, I'll never forget that because I never really liked Wizard of Oz. But I liked the idea of Wizard of Oz. But I loved The Wiz. The music he's on down the run. Like, dude, it's Quincy Jones, Diana Ross, it's Michael Jackson. The list, an all black cast, the list, the talent, the statement it made at the time, perfection. Weird as could be, but I loved it. They do not talk about that in the movie. There's a lot of stuff with Diana Ross they don't talk about in the movie, which I find very interesting. Apparently it had to do with like the lawsuit or I don't know. There's a lot of things there, but she is not mentioned in the movie, which is crazy. The Wiz is not mentioned in the movie at all. And it's right during that era. And it was huge in Michael's career. But those are moments that I remember from Michael Jackson as a kid so vividly to this day. And yes, I remember a lot of things. I remember going to my first rock concert. I remember going to watch WrestleMania 3. Like, I know where I was, but I remember putting on the glove. I remember where I was when I saw that video. And even fast forwarding to Dangerous, when they released Dangerous, I remember that it was simultaneously at the same time, mind you. Again, this was Michael Jackson's song, but this was a movie. It was a short film. It's 11 minutes. They always called it short films. And it was on MTV, BET, VH1, and Fox. November 14th, 1991. 20, as well as in 69 countries. It drew 500 million people to watch Black or White from the Dangerous album. You're not going to find another artist like that. You're not. At all. And I remember where I was for that. I remember. But I think about it, and what makes me so mad, what makes me so furious right now, is that here we are in 2026, and we're watching Michael, and we're hearing all this stuff come out. You know, that stupid Epstein and the people involved, the elites that have been involved for years, the scumbags, the artists, or the football owners, the artists, the movie directors, these pedos, these rapists, trafficking pedos, this cult that they're in, and we hear about this, and nobody's getting arrested. There's no investigation. There's no outcry except for people on social media. And we're being silenced. Trust me, we are. But I think about what happened to Michael and the allegations that came out. And mind you, in 2005, Michael Jackson was found not guilty on all 14 charges in his 2005 criminal trial. Not guilty. They were finding out later that people were retracting their statements, that they lied. They openly lied in cross-examination from a maid, from bodyguards, from dancers who said they saw it, lied. When asked why, they said money. Nothing happened to them, but meanwhile, a man who's been under the spotlight for everything he's done for years, his image was being destroyed. Nobody's saying that Michael didn't have some oddities. Nobody's saying that his answer to some of those questions were weird. No, it's not weird to sleep with a child, but I've never invited a child into my bed. Well, it's not weird because you love the child, you're sleeping with them. That's what we did as a family. We all would get in the bed together. You have to remember, Michael didn't have a childhood. I'm not saying everything that he's a dumb man, but something was wrong, right? You listen to him explain himself. You listen to him, what he talks about. You look at what he did for all these sick kids, thousands of kids, and two people come out. The whole stupid Leaving Neverland, Wade Robson, James Safechuck. They keep facing dismissal after dismissal, and they keep being reevaluated by the courts over and over again. Their claims keep getting disputed. In 2019, evidence presented by the defense in earlier cases, including depositions from 93 to 16, contradicted key details in the documentary. In 1993, the mother of the accuser in the 93 case admitted in a 2005 criminal case that she lied under oath. 2005 trial. Jurors in the 25 stated they did not believe the key prosecution witness, particularly the accuser and his mother, after they were portrayed by the defense as a family of grifters just looking for money. Bodyguards who testified against Jackson were accused of filing a fraudulent lawsuit and reveals they had stolen from him and lied in depositions. He was surrounded by people that just wanted money. A former maid claimed to see abuse. Her story fell apart in cross-examination. She later said that she lied. But because of everything that took place, Michael was criticized. People forgot about what he did for kids and looked at him as a freak. Meanwhile, Macaulay Culkin, Corey Feldman, and the list goes on. Nobody said anything about it. Nobody. Oops. Nobody. Why would they not? You know what I mean? Think about it. Why would they not? If Macaulay Culkin has been very open about his childhood and his life and the horrible things that have happened, why would Michael not go after Macaulay Culkin if he's just this ongoing pedo? Years later, after his death, Michael Jackson is still revered by so many people. And one of those is Macaulay Culkin, because Macaulay Culkin went through some BS. And Michael was there to help him when he didn't have a father figure. Out of these thousands of kids, you've got 4 that he just couldn't get his hands around, right? Had to do it. 2 of those found out they were BS. So you really have these 2, but you start peeling back the layers. And yes, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to talk about the fact that this is BS. The media destroyed Michael, and the evidence isn't there. Because nobody remembers the acquittal. Nobody remembers what happened. Nobody remembers that the details were bullcrap. Nobody remembers that when they said, hey, we found all this child pornography, that actually the FBI, the sheriffs, and all that, in the statement said there was no child pornography found at all. And that every computer and everything in there was scanned clean. They couldn't find one single shred of evidence that was inappropriate, any misdoing, or child pornography. Nothing. Well, what about the wine he kept and called it Jesus juice? They found nothing. Well, there was kids' fingerprints all over the sheets. Yeah. There was also parents that said Michael would give us his bedroom and he'd go sleep in the guest room when we'd come over. You don't think that kids' prints might be on there? Is it weird to just give your kid to Michael Jackson to go hang out with? Yeah, that's weird. That's on the parents, dude. I gotta be honest with you. I love Michael. You ain't hanging out with my kid, like, without me. Period. Point blank. It's all about the money. Because why? So think about it. When Michael settled one of these cases, it opened up the door for every single lawsuit. But when he settled it, why would the father say, okay, I'll take the money? If you did this to my kid, if I was so strong and believed that you abused my child and you offered me money, there ain't no money in the world that's going to make me turn away and say, oh, okay, I'll take it. I'll shut up. And leave that scar on my child. We're either going to take you to court, I'm going to drag you to jail, or you're dead. I'm going to kill you. Period. I don't care who you are. But there ain't no money that's going to stop me from doing that. So why would the dad just go, yeah, I'll take the money? You know what? Because that's all he wanted. He didn't care about his kid. He was backed up on child support. The only reason he started hanging out with his kid was when he found out that his son was actually friending the king of pop. Ooh, now I have some interest. And he created a case. And the media ate it up. And the media turned on Michael for a story. And all these people that were his friends jumped ship, except for the Trues. Michael didn't do it. Period. It's crazy to me how the media attacked him and then after that started interviewing him and started saying, well, what are you doing to your face? You've got cheek implants. What's wrong with your nose? Could you imagine, let's fast forward to 2026, and we start interviewing Ariana Grande, we start interviewing Kelly Osbourne, and we look at her and go, why do you look like a zombie? Why do you look like a survivor from a concentration camp? I said it. Why do you have why do you look like Tim Burton's Corpse Bride? Could you imagine? Because now anybody says anything, they're like, oh, cancel you. How dare you? We don't know her struggles. Meanwhile, you attacked a man who had been severely burned so bad during Pepsi that he had to have surgery, like on his scalp, and wear a wig in certain areas because his hair was never going to grow back. that he got nose jobs because his father criticized him so much about his big nose. Even though doctors said nothing and people around him, he was so embarrassed that he had to get a nose job. But you guys, the media and the so-called, people of the world and fans criticize him. Oh, he bleached his skin. He's not black anymore. He wants to be white. You didn't believe that he had vitiligo started on his hands. That's why he wore a glove a lot of times and it became something else. He wore makeup to cover it up. You didn't believe that until he died. And the autopsy said, absolutely, he suffered from it. Oh, I guess he did. No, you were saying he bleached his skin. He wants to be white. He doesn't want to be black anymore. And he used prescription cream and makeup to cover the blotches, but you abused him. Why does he call it Neverland? Because he wants to live there. He's the boy who never grew up, okay? He can relate to that. It was his piece, but instead you destroyed it by lying that he was a pedo. But the real pedos out there, the ones that were just down the street, Epstein, y'all just don't do nothing. Nobody's saying Michael's not weird. Most artists are. Nobody's saying that Michael didn't do things that didn't make sense. Nobody's saying that. There's controversy. Oh, but did you see what he did with his baby when he held it? Yeah, he wasn't great, but you know what? He was doing a Lion King moment. He was excited. He's also like, it wasn't a great move, but we're going to attack him. Well, he named his baby Blanket. Okay. Now we're attacking people's names. Really, Blue Ivy? You sound like a flower I can find in the jungle or a Batman villain. We're going to start making fun of people's names. It's okay back then to attack a man, but you can't do it now. Okay, got it. Michael was so popular, he had a freaking ride at Epcot, a 3D adventure that I'll never forget. Unbelievable. Nobody's ever going to, in our lifetime, dance the way he danced, pave the way for the boy bands and the Timberlakes and the Ushers and the Chris Browns. Nobody. In sync, nobody. Nobody's ever going to come close to Michael Jackson. That is a once-in-a-lifetime artist, and at 50 years old, he was murdered. Yes, he was murdered. Now, we can go down conspiracy rabbit holes all day, but the doctor was found guilty, supposed to do 4 years in prison, did 2, wrote a memoir, and now lives in his mansion while Michael, the greatest pop star of all time, one of the greatest artists of all time, the greatest artist of all time, died at 50 because you prescribed him with things that he shouldn't have had. Medication that should only be administered in a hospital for certain situations. Yes. Did Michael grow dependent on painkillers? Probably, like most of the artists in the world. Was he a drug addict? No. Were you peddling this so that he could continue to pay you because he felt like he needed it? Probably. But that doctor's living his good life and only served 2 years in prison. Michael's 6 feet under. Now, I personally think that it's interesting that the doctor waited so long to call 911, that the doctor even waited to acknowledge that he was the doctor. I think there's a lot of questions there. Maybe because the doctor knew he was doing something bad. There's another conspiracy theory that says that they killed Michael. Tommy Mottola and Sony was behind it. I mean, Tommy Mottola's a dick. And Michael had a battle with him because of Invincible, which was his last album, really. Didn't do well. There was a whole falling out, but then it still did pretty well overall, but not comparative to his other albums. But I'm not going to dive down that conspiracy. My point is, though, we know for a fact that Michael had a doctor that was overdosing him and prescribing him too many drugs. Nobody was helping him because it was Michael, and he died at 50 before he started his final tour. And I think the doctor's like 70 something now. Let me look. But he's living in a mansion. All these people, these accusers and everything, nobody sees from them, right? Dr. Conrad Murray, personal physician convicted of involuntary manslaughter in 2009 for Michael Jackson. He was responsible for administering a lethal overdose of anesthetic propofol to help Jackson sleep. Wow. That is something that they don't even do unless you're in the hospital. 4 years in jail, but served just under 2 years due to California's prisons overcrowding. Meanwhile, Jackson's dead. He continues to work in a medical field after losing his U.S. medical license. He works in the medical field in his native country. What a dick. Trinidad and Tobago. He wrote, "This is it, the secret lives of Dr. Conrad Murray and Michael Jackson. He maintained his innocence." Screw you, you jerk. And now he lives in a mansion. Can you believe that? And then wrote a book called This Is It. Still benefiting and earning off of Michael Jackson's name. So Michael was murdered, guys. There's no two ways about it. The media murdered him. A lot of the celebrities turned on him. And then he was really murdered. I highly recommend you go see this movie. There's so much we could talk about with Janet. Janet was not in the film. LaToya was in it a little bit. Janet chose not to be in it. It wasn't her film, but I did find it interesting that we didn't even see a little baby Janet for 1 second. In the second film, I feel like that's got to, talking about Lisa Marie Presley, how that came to be, how they get married, what happened after they got divorced, how Michael's kids happened. I feel like that's got to be the second film, but the reality is, if you want to watch more stuff about Michael Jackson, Tubi right now, and Tubi's free, great channel, has some phenomenal documentaries on Michael. There is one about one of the fraudulent accusers, and it goes apart and really picks apart the entire case of one of the fraudulent accusers. He was confused. But it talks, there's also two doco made for TV movies about certain aspects of his life. The This Is It, which was going to be Michael's final tour. This was the documentary they were making of that tour. They never got to finish that documentary, obviously, because Michael died, but this was the footage. So it was really cool to see. So check that out. Let me know what you think. And I don't know what's going on here. Let me know what you think. And again, there's a lot of stuff on Tubi. I highly recommend you go see Michael, though. I'll be back next week. We got a lot more to talk about next week, though. There's a lot of things going on. We may dive into some other stuff with Michael, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about next week. So tune in to the Life of an Average Joe podcast.